Hello and welcome to another video tutorial Monday. This week I wanted to share with you how I've done some cards recently involving apples, and especially this Denami apple. And it's called, I believe it's called Small Apple. I'll link to it in my blog post, of course. But I just did a card for a design team assignment that showcased the stamp, and I used Distress ink to color all of the apples, and I blended them and made them look as natural as I could. And I got a lot of questions about it, so I wanted to share, and this will be part of my video tutorial Monday for this week. So I've gone ahead and I've laid out all the Distress inks that I think I'll be using. I found that these are the best for apple colors, just because from experience from blending them together. And I've picked ones that all blend really nicely with the one next to them. So I have Fired Brick, Barn Door, Dried Marigold, Scattered Straw, Shabby Shutters, and Peeled Paint. And then I've gone ahead and added the blending tools right by them, because that's how I like to work when I'm working with Distress ink. And having them all handy and organized by color makes the process a lot faster. And I'm going to be using this cardstock from Neenah Paper, which, random fact about me, my hometown is actually where they make this paper. But Simon Says Stamp just lowered their prices on this, so I figured it was a perfect time to give it a try, and everybody raves about it. So I'm trying it on all sorts of applications that I usually use white cardstock for. And so far I'm really liking it for its blending capabilities. So I'll keep you updated on that for sure, but that's what I'm using for today. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp out a few apples. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And I'm just going to stamp them freehand. They don't have to be lined up because I'm going to be cutting them out. But I want to try to get them kind of far apart so that I have room for my blending tool to get in here. And I'm just going to stamp a whole bunch. Even though I probably won't use all these in the card, it's nice to have options. So now I can go ahead and start adding in my colors. And I'm going to use, the first thing I do is use my blending tool, and I'm going to use the corner of my blending tool right here to get into the leaf part. And I didn't do this the first time, but I don't know why I didn't do this. I can actually mask off the apple with just a piece of type paper and go in and color the leaf. And I'm using a combination of both Shabby Shutters and Peeled Paint for this. Now that I have my leaves done, I'm going to set my peeled paint off to the side because I don't think I'll be using it for my apples. But I'm going to get all of my ink pads ready by just taking off the lids and setting them up, and then I'm just going to kind of blend. And I usually use two colors that are next to each other, and sometimes three. So I start off with, let's say, okay, I want to make a yellow apple, so I'm going to do Scattered Straw, and I'm just going to color over this whole thing with it. It's okay if you kind of go over the leaf, depending on what color you're using. Yellow, that's fine. If you're using Fired Brick, on the other hand, you might want to use that piece of typing paper to mask off the leaf again. And then I make it, kind of medium dark, I guess you could say. And then move in with the Shabby Shutters on one side, and then the Dried Marigold on the other. And then when you cut this out, it'll just look perfectly shaded. So then maybe on this one I want a mostly red apple with a spot of yellow. So because my Fired Brick, or because my Barn Door is really vivid, as the reds are in general, I'm going to start out with my lightest color, just so that I know the area that I don't want to cover up. And then I'll go back in with my blending tool and work in that barn door. And then I will add some fired brick on top of that just to make it really pop. And then I'll even go back with some more scattered straw just to blend it out nice and well. So as you can see there, that's pretty much the plan. So I'm going to go through and do all these. I'll speed it up so you can see what I do, but basically I just make a decision on an apple by apple basis, I guess you could say. And I kind of just try to mix them up and just do whatever I feel like at that very moment. You can see here I finished coloring in all my apples, and I only actually used the paper for one, which is this really red one. But other than that, I kind of just went with the flow and did whatever colors I felt like, and I ended up with a pretty even amount because once I got towards the end I started, counting, oh, I have a couple red ones, so I need another green one, and so on and so forth. So now it's time to cut them out. And for this, when I cut out things like this, I really like to cut them apart first so that I'm not dealing with a big piece of paper. So I'm just going to cut them out in their little grid here. And I think I'm going to use these 5 on my card and then just line them up in a little row. That'll save on some cutting for this project, and it'll also give me some apples to play with later. And I'm just going to go around cutting these. And I'm actually going to cut off the stem. This is both to save time and because, I don't know, I just feel like I like it without the stem today. And who knows, I might go back and add it with a little piece of thread or something at the end. We'll see. So as you can see here, I'm just cutting with my scissors and moving the paper. I don't actually move my scissors when I cut. The best thing to do when you're teaching yourself how to cut like this, cut out stamped images, is to stamp and cut them out. Because you develop a technique over practicing. So I like to do this when I'm watching TV or watching a movie or even, catching up on emails or something like that. It's a really good activity for you to do while you're paying attention to something else too. So I'm just going to continue to cut these out, and I'll be back in just a minute when I have them all cut out. So I'm back with my little apples, and I just cut them out and then went around the edge from behind with my Memento black marker, and that just helps hide the white edges. And then I'm just going to line them up across the front of my card. I have them on some dimensional adhesive here. And I'm just going to see how I want to line them up first. And then when I think I know where I want to put them, I'll just stick them down and try to get the middle one centered. And then I do the edges next. And then it's easy to get them evenly spaced because you only have to really guess, quote unquote, on the 2 that aren't touching an edge or in the middle. And I'm going to make them a little bit funky just because I don't want it to be a really stiff straight line. And you can just, if you get them a little off, you can still peel them up and it's just fine. And I'm just going to turn these a little bit to add a little bit more movement to the line. Now I'm going to tie some ribbon around, and I think I'm going to do it across the middle here. And this is some May Arts ribbon. They're 1/4 inch green silk ribbon. It's the SK16. And I find that when I'm using the silk ribbon, it really helps to put down a glue dot. So when I do this first kind of cross here, I can stick it down. And this will keep it in place so that it doesn't get loose on the other side. And then when you have your bow tied, you can always pull up the glue dot a little bit so that you can adjust it. So now I'm ready for my sentiment, and I'm going to use this one from Paper Tray Ink. It's their Haggott's number 7, and I'm going to use the Autumn Wishes. I am going to add brads across the bottom, which is kind of a throwback, I guess, but brads are definitely coming back around right now, and I've been really into gold for some reason lately, so this is perfect. And I'm just going to mimic how far away the ribbon is on the other side, and I'm using my Tim Holtz ruler just so that I can get a really straight line. And as you can see here on my Tim Holtz ruler, you can actually line up the numbers so that the 0 is in the middle of the card. You can see the 2 1/8 is on this side and on this side. So it makes it really easy. You don't even have to do the math. You just do it once at 0, and then I can do once right before the 2 mark. So that was 1 7/8 inch out. And then once, I'm gonna make a little tiny mark at the 1 inch, and then I'm gonna go back and do it right next to the 1 inch, and that way it's perfectly spaced, 5 across. And I'm going to take out my little brads. And then I have a really cool tool to show you. This is from We Are Memory Keepers. It's their brad setter. And I can actually put all the brads through right now. And since the holes are kind of small, they're smaller than the brad, it'll kind of hold on and grab the brad. And this is where the tool comes in handy, because I really don't like putting my fingernails in between these little tines of the brad, because sometimes it really hurts. So I use this needle end here to kind of separate them, and then you can use this the other side just to rock it back and forth over the brad. You can even go like this if you want, and this just pushes it down and makes it flush with the cardstock, as you can see here. You can do a little bit more with your hands if you want, but really this does all the work for you. It's really great. So I'm just gonna set these. And it's looking a little sparse actually, so I think I'm just going to eyeball doing one more set of brads in between the ones I already have. And with those little extra brads, I really am liking how the card is coming together. I think the only thing left to do is to round the corners, so I'm going to use my corner chomper. And this is what I really love about the corner chomper, is that you don't have to really contemplate if you're going to round the corners of your card before you do it, because even if you had stuff right on the corner there, you'd still be able to chomp the corners after you're done, which is really cool. So I think we're done for this week. I'm going to keep it nice and simple, really let those apples shine, and hopefully this inspires you to bring out your distress inks and try to get a natural look with them, because I think nature incorporates a lot of gradients into beautiful things like fruit and flowers. So hopefully you'll get out your distress inks and try this technique this week. So here's a picture of the finished card, and here's a close-up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you again next week on another Video Tutorial Monday.